Thank you for joining us yet again on our news desk on QTV. The headlines. President Edgar Lungu has encouraged companies in the country to engage in business that creates employment and value addition. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, financial bailout is the panacea to Zambia's current financial distress, the financial expert has said. The Zambia Bureau of Standards says investigations into the natural power energy drink are still ongoing. Here now is the news in detail. President Edgar Lungu has replaced Minister of Agriculture Permanent Secretary Julius Shaw, whose contract was not renewed, with former Zambia National Farmers Union Executive Director Sangwawo Ziambo. Speaking during the swearing-in ceremony at State House, President Lungu has urged Mr. Ziambo to work closely with key private players in the agriculture sector in order to increase production. President Lungu has expressed optimism that the new permanent secretary's experience in the agriculture sector will help him handle challenges facing the sector.
You have vast experience at both farmers and at business levels. You're well versed in agricultural issues, having worked for the National Farmers Union for 17 years as an extension officer, national coordinator, executive director, and for the last 10 years as the CEO. I think for me that's a very good track record. I had to search for one like you, and I'm glad I found it. You therefore command a clear practical understanding of the entire value chain of the agriculture sector in Zambia and the numerous challenges that affect us. So the implementation of the emergency scheme is not new to you. The challenges that we face thereby is not new. And indeed the legislation that we talk so much about. So as you take up this appointment, I urge you to work closely with all key agricultural sector players. We have the National Farmers Union, small-scale farmers, agri-business, agri-suppliers. And I think you should break out of the tradition of thinking that the ministry staff and its technocrats know everything. I would encourage you to go beyond the bounds of your ministry, talk to the private sector, all those involved in the processing of food up to them to our table. I cannot speak more. I can only say that congratulations, and that private sector experience should anchor you well in the ministry, because I'm looking forward to breaking this monopoly, perception of monopoly of wisdom on the part of those who are privileged to serve in government. Most people think they know it all when they sit in those comfortable offices, yet they don't know. So by going out more to interact with all the sector players, I'm sure you'll achieve a more successful path for agriculture in this country. Don't be restricted to those technocrats you employ in the civil service. Go beyond them. Meet the farmers, small-scale farmers in the rural areas and so on. That way we'll succeed. I'm very proud of this appointment.
And speaking after being sworn in, Mr. Ziambo says he will endeavor to consult extensively on requisites of the agricultural sector. Mr. Ziambo has thanked President Lungu for showing confidence in him by appointing him to the position of permanent secretary.
If you heard the statement when you were swearing me in, he emphasized the need of working with various stakeholders. And I think that is for a simple reason. You see, agriculture is very wide and is also very sensitive because it affects different stakeholders differently. We have different players. We have farmers, we have the agribusiness, we have the consumers themselves. Coming back to your question. So what you do for farmers may affect the agribusiness differently. What you do for the agribusiness will affect consumers and farmers differently. So what is important is to ensure that whatever we do, whatever measure we take, whatever policy we take, it is blessed by all stakeholders. It must be a win-win situation. So I think our focus, together with support of the Minister of Agriculture, my colleagues in the ministry, and also the stakeholders in the private sector, what we shall be doing is to ensure that whatever we do involves all stakeholders. It must be a win-win situation at the end of the day. And that will avoid the riots that you are talking about. So what I'm praying for is support from all ministry officials and also the private sector.
Meanwhile, President Edgar Lungu has appealed to companies in the country to engage in business that creates employment and value addition. Speaking when Trade Kings management paid a courtesy call on him, President Lungu has encouraged Trade Kings to ensure that the value chains incorporate people to create employment as well as wealth.
Of this, and our interest is not only at policy level, but it's also at implementation level. And that's why we have project monitoring implementation unit led by Andrew Chela. His idea is to see that the projects which we make pronouncements about, such as the steel and the iron project, and indeed some of the works we are doing on Trade Kings, which impact on us as government and ultimately the well-being of the people of Zambia, are supported. And so if you are finding obstacles along the way, you see the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry.
And Trade Kings Executive Technical Director Julius Kaume has told President Lungu that the company intends to increase its production of steel from 240 metric tons to 1 million metric tons.
From the 250 to 1 million tons, more than 1 million tons. And the requirement for that, we are thinking about 300 million tons of $300 million, sorry. Not 300 million tons, $300 million what if and so on. So that's what we intend, we are looking for, because to increase to 1 million on our own, organically, it will take a bit of time. It will take about 5 to 10 years. Now, if we got the support from your government, and we can increase to 1 million within 2 to 3 years. So that's not the problem. The know-how we've got, the knowledge we've got, the capacity we've got and so on. For the special economic zone, we already, we are in a discussion at the moment with the ZCCM-IH to form the Kafuya Iron and Steel Zone Special Purpose Vehicles, so that we can manage everything. Why is ZCCM-IH? Because ZCCM-IH is an investment company. At the same time, we do realize ZCCM-IH, they got investment in our copper mining. And the problem at the moment, people are not using the copper, is that our FDI.
And speaking to journalists, Presidential Press Aide Amos Chanda disclosed that President Lungu has directed the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry to look into all the challenges hindering Trade Kings' plans to expand its operations.
He has given a full support to the plans and ambitions of Trade Kings to expand and build what they are announcing to be probably the biggest manufacturing plant in Southern Africa regarding the fast-moving goods. So the President has endorsed and supported their plans, and he has accepted an invitation to tour different production lines and centers under the Trade Kings group. As you know, it involves Trade Kings, which manufactures fast-moving goods. Then you have the Universal Mining, which produces steel, and they have informed him about their plans to increase production from the current 240 metric tons to about 1 million metric tons. And this partnership, the InfisH partnership with ZCCM-IH, is one major step in creating a company that will create thousands of jobs themselves will be articulating. So that was a summary of the meeting. He has directed Minister of Commerce and Trade to ensure that all the bureaucratic bottlenecks that slow down industrialization are taken out, and that you will be working with Zambian homegrown companies to help them expand, grow into the export market.
Financial expert Trevor Hambai has observed that the International Monetary Fund (IMF) financial bailout is the panacea to Zambia's current financial distress. Speaking at the Center for Trade Policy and Development, CTPD Public Forum, dubbed Zambia's Date Challenge Scaling Up the IMF War, Mr. Hambai notes that Zambia's current physical position is as a result of the failure to secure the IMF bailout. He says it is disappointing to note that government does not seem to have a clear roadmap on how it will repay the over $15 billion both external and domestic debt. Meanwhile, Mr. Hambai says the sinking fund is no longer a solution to the debt repayment for Zambia, stating that this should have been done in the year 2015 when Zambia only needed $140 million per year in order for it to be able to repay the Eurobonds by the year 2022. He says that the country now needs about $440 million per year if it is to manage to repay the Eurobonds and other debts by the year 2022. And speaking at the same public forum, CTPD Executive Director Isaac Mwaipopo says Zambia needs to ensure it does not fail to repay any of its debt. Mr. Mwaipopo says it is for this reason that government should secure the IMF financial bailout, as failure to do so will result in the country continuing to experience challenges in service provision in sectors such as health and education. And Zambia Tax Platform Coordinator Ibrahim Kamara says Zambia needs the IMF package because the current debt position, if not addressed, may lead to problems for the country. Kamara states that the IMF would offer the necessary resources needed in the short term and help the country in ensuring that it does not accrue debt, arrears or default. The Zambia Bureau of Standards, ZABS, says investigations into the natural power 6 energy drink are still ongoing. Recently, the Ndola City Council, the Zambia Bureau of Standards, ZABS, and the Zambia Medicine Regulatory Authority, ZAMRA, ordered an immediate stop to the production and sale of natural power energy drink after it was banned by the Uganda National Drug Authority and Uganda Bureau of Standards on the basis that it contains sildenafil citrate, Viagra, which is used to treat erectile dysfunction in men and pulmonary hypertension. This was after a Ugandan national reportedly suffered a 6-hour erection after taking the drink. ZABS Marketing and Public Relations Officer Nzali Chela says ZABS, together with Zambia Medicines Regulatory Authority, are still investigating the matter so as to ascertain the claims made about the product. Ms. Chela has told AQ News that once the investigations are completed, the public will be informed of this finding. Ms. Chela has since appealed to members of the public to exercise patience as investigations are being conducted. Labour and Social Security Minister Joyce Mukoko has appealed to the media to help in sensitizing workers and about their rights and generally about the labour laws. Speaking when she concluded a 3-day inspection to check on the compliance levels on the revised minimum wages, Ms. Mukoko says it is important for both workers and employers to read and understand the labour laws. She says the media should help in sensitizing both the employers and employees about the labour laws through various platforms. We have this report.
Every worker has rights and every country has its labour laws. However, it is up to the worker to find time to read the labour laws and find out more about their rights to avoid being exploited. This has been the call by the Labour Minister Joyce Mukoko as she carried out her 3-day inspection to find out about the compliance levels of the increment of minimum wages, which was effected in September last year. The Labour Minister concluded her inspections with an appeal to the media to help in sensitizing workers about their rights, as she noted that many did not understand their rights.
Now what we are getting, people come here and pose to be from the Ministry of Labour, and then they tell you what to do, they are lying to you, and then you are paying them. Why don't you come to the offices? You have an ambassador here, who I talk to.
Mr. Lee.
Yes, I will go and complain to him. Because when you come into a country, you don't talk to individuals, you go to the offices. Now they are lying to you. That one is even scared now.
He's not
he can't
a
even
labor
come. He has been cheating you that he's a labor officer. You understand? Now this person is lying, and we find that you have done a lot of wrong things. Wrong. So my officer is coming back to educate you. And so that you pay them the correct amounts, they sign contracts, and also what you haven't paid properly, you pay properly.
Some workers have thanked the minister for helping them know about the labour laws.
Some payments that have not been made, and then you go to labour office, and then labour office says no, There's no contract. There's nothing you can. There's nothing here. There's nothing you can.
No, that's from what you are explaining. That's not the whole thing. When a person resigns, they forfeit the gratuity. It's only the leave days that are calculated. So when you come to the labor office, we explain in accordance with what the law provides.
Okay.
So it is not that when you ask for what belongs to you and then you are sent away, then you come to the labor office, we tell you there's no contract, there's nothing, that it doesn't work that way. In fact, when there is no contract, it always works automatically. It works in your firm.
Yes, that's what we do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so
That's the way it works.
But you want to about the union? Although you have teachers union,
So ngaendela kuweka kwenda ushtaki complain kulipe. Nasa tunabala
kumaliza. Union has never been here to recruit. That's the
wafula ko 500 mwaka wina udheni mwaka wa namba 3 wafula 600 ishe kwaja nchito ikasila kuguro panga calculate panga calculate ya isha ya ma 400 na 500 wapanga calculate.
So calculation in line with the law.
Government has done its part by improving the conditions of workers. For now, the onus is on the workers to find out more about their rights and the employers to comply with the law. Martha Katambi, reporting for QTV News in Lusaka.
Government has announced intentions to change the law so that the Independent Broadcasting Authority can begin to regulate ZNBC. Newly appointed Information and Broadcasting Services Permanent Secretary Chanda Kasolo says it is the mediocrity for the IBA to fail to license ZNBC. Mr. Kasolo says his ministry wants this mediocrity to be undone by ensuring that the IBA plays its role fully and license ZNBC just like it regulates other broadcasting media houses. Speaking at his inaugural media briefing shortly before assuming office in Lusaka, Mr. Kasolo disclosed that discussions to effect this change as quickly as possible have since begun.
Now with IBA, for instance, IBA does not grant a license to ZNBC. That is mediocrity, in terms of the platform that was given. IBA should be able to regulate every single institution that's producing media-related information. So, we'll make sure, and I know my colleagues, the directors, they have been working on that aspect, and I was having a discussion this morning. We must bridge that gap. IBA must be able to license ZNBC. That's just like they license QFM and other media houses. They have on TV. So we're going to make sure that that happens as quickly as possible. The other mediocrity I was talking about is where individuals are causing it. That's why I'm saying there will be changes. If I'm not satisfied with somebody's work ethic, output and so on, commitment, they're gone. I don't tolerate mediocrity. You can have a record, you can go back to where I've worked, where I found things are not working, I make changes immediately because I'm here to.
And Mr. Kasolo has further warned that if media institutions in the country do not regulate themselves, government will have to regulate them. He states that his ministry will no longer tolerate any media institution that, for example, breaks the law by insulting the head of state.
There is the issue of self-regulation. We'll push that. You guys must self-regulate. I'm a great believer in that. If you can't, then we will have to put regulation in place as government. Because what we can't allow is irresponsible journalism and irresponsible publication of falsehoods. And we can't allow breaking the law by insulting the head of state. The head of state is the head of the nation. Head of state doesn't mean he's the head of a political party or organization. No, he heads the Zambian nation. And for that reason, we must ensure that the head of state as a name and as an institution is protected. And we are the ones that protect him from those that seek to break the law. It will not be easy for anyone from now on to just simply call
The Japanese government has provided a grant of about 5.8 million kwacha to the promotion of women's health throughout life cycle at one-stop service site in Zambia project. The project, which is in its second phase and spearheaded by the Japanese Organization for International Cooperation in Family Planning, JOICEP, aims to improve access to health services for women in Masaiti, Mpongwe and Lufwanyama districts on the Copperbelt province by developing one-stop service facilities, which include a maternity waiting house and training members of Safe Motherhood Action Groups, SMAGs, among others. Speaking during a signing ceremony, Japanese ambassador to Zambia, Handebu Sobashima says his government believes that for Zambia to continue to achieve further development in a sustainable manner, the strengthening of the health sector is important among other sectors. Mr. Sobashima says it is for this reason that Japan intends to contribute to the process in cooperation with private sector in various ways, which also includes funding the project, which is expected to benefit over 75,500 women and girls.
We appreciate activities of JOICEP. JOICEP, from December 2014 to December 2017, had implemented, in cooperation with PPAZ, among others, and with grant assistance from the government of Japan, the maternal, newborn, and child health one-stop service project in Masaichi and Mpongwe district in Copperbelt province, covering 10 areas. The similar project for promotion of women's health throughout the life cycle at one-stop service site in Zambia covers wider 11 areas in Masaiti, Mpongwe, and Lufwanyama districts in Copperbelt.
And JOICEP Project General Manager Kumiko Goto says despite the decrease in the maternal mortality rate, Zambia continues to face challenges such as inequity in the distribution of service between urban and rural areas and inadequate community involvement of reproductive maternal newborn and adolescent health. Ms. Goto says the project will also, in its second phase, establish a center at Mibenge Rural Health Center, and that the project will also endeavor to empower adolescent girls so that they can protect themselves from unwanted teenage pregnancies and early marriages. Former Sananga Member of Parliament William Harrington has echoed the call by veteran politician Vernon Mwanga on the need to involve senior citizens such as those that have served in government before in the national dialogue process if it is to be successful. Ms. Harrington observes that the impasse that has characterized the dialogue process is a clear sign that the help of senior citizens in the process is needed. He says while these senior citizens have retired from public life, they still possess the capacity to resolve the challenges the country is experiencing with regards to promoting dialogue and reconciliation as they are experienced people. Mr. Harrington says senior citizens, who include Mr. Sketchley Sachika and Mr. Vernon Mwanga, are capable of offering unbiased advice to the ongoing national dialogue process, as opposed to what he has termed as cadre kind of advice coming from some stakeholders.
Their vast experience, I believe, their social-political experience will add value to the national dialogue and reconciliation process. They will be able to deal with contentious issues with a sense of sobriety and level-headedness, as opposed to the current cadre mentality who continue to issue statements, perhaps because they may have been paid to make those statements. We don't know. I don't have any evidence myself. But these statements coming out of the cadre fraternity only help to derail the whole process, to frustrate the process, to frustrate the goodwill and the good intentions of those people who want to see a success of the inter-party dialogue and reconciliation.
Lusaka Province Minister Boma Lusambo says he will ensure the 4 army worms do not affect agricultural production in the province this farming season. Mr. Lusambo says he will work closely with the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers in the province to ensure that those whose fields have been infested by Armyworms receive the necessary help so that their produce is not affected. Mr. Lusambo says the distribution of chemicals to the affected farmers has already commenced. More in the following report.
Chalimbana University, formerly National In-Service Teachers College, whose history can be traced as far back as 1930, is aptly described as one of the earliest teachers' colleges in the country, offering both primary and secondary education. Despite it producing majority of Zambia's teachers and once having former President of Zimbabwe Robert Mugabe as lecturer, the university, which is located in Lusaka's Chongwe area, has however been operating without title since its establishment, as explained by the university Deputy Vice Chancellor.
We have a challenge of title deed. We are on traditional land. We've been trying to get title deed through the normal channel, the royal establishment. We are not getting very far, and we do need the help of the royal establishment. We do need the help of government in order to get title deed so that people can come and assist us. Organizations have come here to try to assist us, but they want title.
This revelation has irked Lusaka Province Minister Boman Lusambo, who visited and toured the institution.
We can't have a government infrastructure sitting on a customary land, just like this. Okay? We just have to take it upon yourself as district commissioner, help the Chalimbana University. If you feel we can come in and assist where you feel that here you can't pass, I think we are ready to help.
Fraser Msonda is Chongwe District Commissioner, and he had this assurance to the Provincial Minister and the university management.
No, sure. Great Minister. Sure. I also must be quick to say that there is goodwill on the part of the Musori Law Establishment to help Chalimbana University as well as the Chalimbana Local Government Institute to get title deeds, because this is the direction which government has taken. So we have to expedite the process. And I can assure you, Honourable Minister, that within the shortest period of time, we'll be able to report that the title has been given.
The minister also directed that these houses for the institution staff, which according to the Deputy Vice Chancellor have been abandoned for the past 5 or so years, be completed so that the first 10 lecturers can move in.
These houses are almost 80% complete. Then we hear that the contractor just abandoned the project, and then is in discussion with the government. So it's a government project. And we have been appealing and crying that these are completed, so that because about 50% of our staff live in Lusaka. They drive in every morning and drive back every evening.
My interest is on all those houses. Government of His Excellency Edgar Lungu, we have spent a lot of money, and we can't abandon those houses at that stage. 80%, 90% complete. We cannot afford to abandon those houses. My directive to your management is that let us put our heads together and make sure that the first 10 teachers, let them accommodate, let them shift in those houses. Yes, we'll be meeting with the Permanent Secretary Higher Education, the Minister herself, and my Permanent Secretary, Lusaka Province, to see how best we can resolve these matters.
The minister's visit at the university included a tour at the school's sewer ponds and various departments, including the kitchen and hostels, where he took time to interact with the students.
The ones we came with from home, so we just have to eat.
So you came with this from home?
Yes.
Mr. Lusambo's tour of the district ended at Kanakantapa resettlement scheme, where he wanted to check the extent of damage to fields caused by the armyworms.
What we are facing now is the challenge of the 4 armyworm. The field that we want to see, sir, you discover that Kanakantapa is affected by the 4 armyworm. Thanks to the government, through the Department of Agriculture, they have already delivered some chemicals for the control of the 4 armyworms. But however, this chemical is not enough.
We are in talking terms with all ministries at Lusaka Province, because we work as a team. So when it comes to agriculture, we will not sleep. We want to see that we have a bumper harvest here in Lusaka Province even this year. We are not going to be intimidated by the 4 AMIWEMS. We had the AMIWEMS last year. And
the minister's tour was, however, disrupted by the heavy rains which prevented him to check the armyworm-infested fields, and all efforts to grab the pouring rains proved futile. Nakaonga reporting for QTV News in Chongwe.
The Zambia Congress of Trade Unions has advised government to learn from past mistakes and avoid making similar mistakes as it considers reintroducing the national airline. ZCTU Secretary General Cosmas Mkuka says stringent measures should now be put in place to avoid the abuse of airlines by the government officials. Mr. Mkuka says ZCTU welcomes the reintroduction of the national airline. Mr. Mkuka is hopeful that the coming of the national airline will help expose Zambia to tourists. Government, through the Ministry of Transport and Communications, is expected to reintroduce the national airline in the first quarter of this year.
When you introduce the national airline, it's owned by us, and to expose Zambia to most of the routes where we have the tourist attractions, and that I wish we can still market tourism through the national airline. Since we are coming from the lessons learned from Zambia Airways, how it became defunct because of the interferences from government. So let this one run as a proper business. It's a welcome concept and welcome idea, but let's just remove the bottlenecks which are affected the Zambia Airways, the way it collapsed, and so that this cannot be a story again. Let's put in place measures which will help out for it to run. Otherwise, in a situation where you do not have your own national airline, it's like you are not connected to the rest of the world, and you have to keep on connecting flights to get to a certain destination, which is not very, very good.
Siavonga District Commissioner Lavmo Kanyama has appealed to governments to consider giving the district another fire tender in addition to the one district has. Mr. Kanyama says one fire tender is not enough for the district, considering that it is home to one of the country's hydropower stations, the Kariba North Bank Power Station, and therefore in case of a fire at the power station, it would be difficult to put it out using one fire engine. He explains that ZESCO management had last year promised to procure a fire truck to be stationed at Kariba North Bank Power Station, but that this has not been done. Mr. Kanyama has since appealed to the Ministry of Local Government to consider allocating one of the 4 fire tenders which First Lady Esther Lungu has gone to receive in the United States to Siavonga District. The Bank of Zambia has noted the need for players in the financial sector to work together in identifying and addressing barriers that affect quick and easy access to credit by an underserved segment in society. According to the Credit Market Monitoring Program, statistics show that credit to smallholder farmers accounted for 0.3% of total credit disbursement in 2017 compared to 1.1% in 2016, with rural areas accounting for 12.5% of total credit disbursement in 2017 and 10.7% in 2016. The statistics showed a little change in trends by September 2018. Speaking at the Medium Zambia Stakeholders Breakfast meeting, Bank of Zambia Senior Bank Inspector Mbinga Kafunia says it is an undisputed fact that rural areas have historically not received adequate volumes of credit for a variety of reasons. And Medium Zambia Chief Executive Officer Peter Lungu says Medium has invested over $3 million United States to provide technology to develop a template of land records. Mr. Lungu explains that Medium provides an innovative and affordable private sector driven solution to formalizing land rights and bridge the legal empowerment gap between informal and holding of and formal registration in 12 chiefdoms across the country. Speaking at the same event, Chief Chamuka of the Lenje-speaking people of Chisamba District, whose chiefdom has benefited from the Medium project, has called on the Bank of Zambia and other financial institutions to give credit opportunities to the underserved, especially women and smallholder farmers.
Director of Program, I want to mention one very important thing. More than 1,500 farmers in my chiefdom have been given parcel sales. And I would like to mention that out of that number, the majority of people who have been given secure customary land are women. Why women? Remember, I am a champion on ending child marriages, teenage pregnancies, forced marriages for Eastern and Southern Africa. Why we should invest in women? Because we believe that in Zambia, in Africa, and globally, one root cause for which child marriages and teenage pregnancies is being propagated and perpetrated is because of poverty. We can only clamp down the issue of teenage pregnancies if we empower women with land. And by empowering women with land, let us have value out of this land. By asking you banks and all the people here to partner with our women, the youths, the disabled, and all the people in the community, give them money so that they can invest in this land which we have given them. We have played our role as traditional leaders. Can now financial institutions unleash their potential, their kindness, open up their hearts, join hands. We are all Zambians. Let us concentrate on empowering our own Zambians. We cry when we see the money going out to the foreign investors coming into the country, leaving out us. We are Zambians.
The Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission, CEEC, and the Technical Education, Vocational and Entrepreneurship Training Authority, TVETA, have signed a memorandum of understanding which will see the training of micro, small and medium enterprises in specialized skills across the country. CEEC Director General Likando Mukumbuta says the project will be supported by the Africa Development Bank at a cost of 400,000 kwacha. Speaking during the signing ceremony, Mr. Mukumbuta says the MOU will also help TVETA develop a sustainable business development service provision to the micro, small and medium enterprises sector in the country's economy. Mr. Mukumbuta says the partnership will define business development services in the country.
So now, why is it relevant? It becomes relevant because clearly we're going into a different gear in terms of how we participate in our economy, how we make money from our own resources, how we transform our raw materials into finished products. We're getting into a different gear. You don't get into a different gear and think the same. So it will mean that the skills that we need, the kind of people now that are going to be working there are going to need a different type of productivity. If somebody was making 6 blocks of pan bricks per hour, they have to move to 12 or 17 pan bricks per hour. So it means that those people that train them to do that must be retooled. So through this partnership, we're totally redefining business development services in Zambia. We want to move away from generalizing too much, where all of us think that as long as you've got a university degree, then you can provide BDS, you can do business plan and so on. That's the general stuff for just providing definitions. With this, we're going to go to a different level. For example, in the industrial yard that you saw, there are various things that are going to be happening. In the timber sector, they're going to be making timber products, but they'll also be curing timber through kilns. We need the kind of people who, when they are helping you to do a business plan, they can specify that they're experts actually in the timber value chain, and they will be able to train you. How are you going to, can you manage a kiln like that one? How do you do it in such a manner that your factory can be very productive and highly profitable, and you've got an internet?
And TVETA Director General Cleophas Takaizia says the agreement is a significant milestone in the ongoing collaboration to contribute to economic development. Mr. Takaizia has since pledged to ensure the successful implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding.
TVETA recognizes the role that the CEEC plays as a body corporate established through the Act number 9 of 2006, if not mistaken, it is, to foster broad-based economic empowerment. And we cannot talk about broad-based economic empowerment if we don't talk about skills as well. Therefore, the two institutions that are sitting in this room today share a common vision about how we can achieve broad-based empowerment for our people. We need to empower our people so that they lead decent lives. And the best way to empower our people is to ensure that We give them the skills, but also we capacitate them to start businesses or activities in which they can put those skills to application. So the agreement that we are going to sign in this room today, ladies and gentlemen, to us is a significant milestone in our ongoing collaboration, because for many years, as you all know, even at government level, we have been directing our efforts and expertise on fostering local involvement in economic.
The UNICAF University has bemoaned the low levels of information, communication and technology in education institutions in Zambia. Vice-Chancellor Professor Mpanze Sinjela says there is need for the country to immediately adopt a philosophy of e-learning programs in a bid to reduce the cost of academic services and management. Speaking during the open lecture series by UNICAF, Professor Sinjela says e-learning is gaining great attention in developing countries in Africa. And Mr. Sinjela has revealed that UNICAF University in Zambia has awarded more than $75 million worth of a scholarship and has changed over 12,000 lives through such scholarship programs.
Even the lady relative who called you today, tomorrow, because we're leapfrogging, because our government, our leaders will give us more money to plow in those rural areas. Probably even better still, instead of building brick and mortar, some of that money should be diverted to ensure that everyone can have access to ICTs. Our modules are so user-friendly. We see so many young generation children very busy on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on all these social media, where in fact the same amount of time they spend, the same bundles they have, our modules can be studied on a smartphone, simple smartphone. That's what it takes. Whether we're introducing engineering programs virtually, yes, Mr. Zulu, we are headed there. As I mentioned at the beginning, number one, we're going to teach medical sciences, in fact, sciences.
Speaking at the same event, retired teacher Andy Bowers has proposed the need for UNICAF University to consider introducing the course in alternative power generation in order for e-learning to be successful.
Okay. Now, what we need in rural areas for electrification to, e-learning to take place is electricity, power. We suffer in Lusaka because of power cuts. Think about the rural areas. That's why there's lots of babies as well. What do you do when it's dark? You can sleep, you can tell stories, traditional stories, but then maybe you should go to bed. So what I'm appealing for, what I'm asking UNICAF to do, is to consider that in order for e-learning to be successful in Zambia and all the countries where UNICAF is working, is to introduce a course in alternative power generation.
And Zambia Center for Accountancy Studies, ZICA's Vice-Chancellor Professor Mtalem Sonda says universities have a crucial role to play in developing the digitally enabled citizens of the future.
As a manager that you're supposed to provide a learning environment for the 22nd century. No, right now you can get knowledge which is not in a textbook. If you go to open education resources, go to OERs. Example is MOOCs from Cornell, MIT in the US and from other places. These are multiple open online courses. You can also go to Coursera or Khan Academy, where you can get this information which you can now package and teach. If you want to get a curriculum which you develop to say every 5 years review, that content is no longer useful, it's obsolete, null and void, and they call it in law. 5 years is too long a time. You have to go to current knowledge to address a future you are not sure of. You prepare students, we are not teaching them. We are preparing them. We are facilitating the learning process. The classroom has been flipped. Two more comments. There's what's called CESA, Continuing Education Strategy for Africa. And there are clusters. One of the clusters address what Professor Nyera spoke about. This cluster is called Open Distance and E-Learning. 5 people were picked to start the process, and Zambia was blessed to have one of who is on under one of us. We are 5. The Professor Manda Makanya, Vice Chancellor and Director of UNISA, Professor Toli Mweti, Open University of Tanzania, Musonda from Zambia, and Professor Obi from Ghana. We don't know anything, but they just picked. I don't know how. And Dr. Bakari Diallo of the African Veterinary University of Nairobi. There's an
Well, that item brings us to the end of the news at this hour, but before I take a run, here is a recap of stories in the headlines. President Edgar Lungu has encouraged companies in the country to engage in business that creates employment and value addition. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) financial bailout is the panacea to Zambia's current financial distress, a financial expert has said. The Zambia Bureau of Standards says investigations into the natural power energy drink are still ongoing. And that will do it for the news. Thank you so much for staying with us throughout. Bye-bye. God bless.